Bendis can barely handle one book, yet is currently writing 6 to 10 issues monthly now. This will only get worse until DC management lightens his load and gives him the editorial support he desperately needs. Wow, where to start with Action Comics 1012? This is normally the superior Superman book, and I use that term very loosely. This week's Action Comics is an incoherent mess, and the visuals look like garbage half the time. Nothing works in this issue in terms of narrative, continuity, or characterization. I thought Superman 12 was a mess, but writer Brian Michael Bendis drops the ball even harder in Action Comics. This is easily the worst issue of his run on the series thus far. This is a 1-star book that I would never recommend anyone read, and that's being kind on my part. And I hope readers get their Superman fix on the cover, because this is pretty much the only time he does anything superhero related in this entire book. Bendis has been building to EVENT LEVIATHAN in the pages of Action Comics for months now. He moved the story along far too slowly, and Superman rarely did anything super or heroic leading up to the event. In fact, Superman is nowhere to be found in EVENT LEVIATHAN number 1. Turns out he was in the Fortress of Solitude with Lois, which makes less than no sense considering Lois is with Batman and Green Arrow, and they must stop Leviathan before sunrise when issue 1 of EVENT LEVIATHAN concludes. But who needs continuity, am I right? Steve Epting has been the hero on Action Comics for quite some time, but there's a new artist this issue. Szymon Kudranski's art is okay-ish in spots, but mostly sinks to Bendis' level this issue. The best illustrated portions of the book involve the Invisible Mafia and their secret meetings. I guess these guys are meeting in the Drum of Invisibility inside a mansion while drinking wine. I'm not going to address just how stupid this idea is, or how there's no way this many people fit in there. The art is okay, but the visuals are so dark you can't make any of the characters out, and it just doesn't look good. It gets much worse when we visit Lovebird, Superman, and Lois in the Fortress of Solitude. The coloring from Brad Anderson is a major improvement, but the line art from Szymon Kudranski falters big time. Superman looks awful in the top panels, and Lois Lane doesn't look like Lois. She looks like Long Island Lolita, Amy Fisher. If you're unaware who that is, Amy Fisher was a teenager who shot Joey Buttafuoco's wife in the face at point-blank range after he had an affair with her. She went to prison for many years. If you have the urge to Google search her, make sure Safe Search is on. She may have started a career in adult entertainment after her prison sentence. Anyways, it's really confusing, and I initially thought Soups was cheating on his wife. Even more odd is the fact that we meet a new old character, Rose and Thorn, later in the story, and she actually looks like Lois. The visuals in Action Comics 1012 leap backwards from the previous issues. I rate the art from Szymon Kudranski 2 out of 5. Despite the lackluster art, Bendis still manages to drag the overall quality of the book down with even more porous writing. At this very moment, Leviathan has laid waste to Argus, DEO, Spiral, and other covert agencies worldwide. The world as they know it may end at any moment, yet Superman and Amy Fisher, Lois, still have time for a booty call at the Fortress of Solitude. This is extremely out of character, and the conversation they have provides nothing of substance. It's like Bendis remembered he needed to include Superman in his Superman-themed comic book and randomly added this scene. Of course, Superman is supposed to be missing per EVENT LEVIATHAN number 1. Lois is supposed to be investigating with the greatest detectives in the DC universe. But that's beside the point, I guess. Action Comics has featured nothing but the lead up to EVENT LEVIATHAN for almost the entire run in 2019. I honestly can't even remember the last time the Invisible Mafia Secret Syndicate storyline was featured in the book. And for the life of me, I can't remember almost any details of it. Yet here is Robinson Goode back in Action Comics taking calls at the Daily Planet. She's also displaying some sort of flaming hand abilities I forgot she had or was just revealed. Either way, she looks pretty stupid just using this ability in the middle of the damn newsroom floor. Why would Leon choose anyone this reckless to be her partner in a criminal organization? Good agrees to meet a mysterious woman who turns out to be Rose and Thorn. You can't really see it here in her Thorn personality, but when she introduces herself as Rose, I thought she was Lois Lane undercover. They go on to have one of the longest, most boring conversation reveals in comic book history. I doze off at least a half a dozen times trying to make it through this inane dialogue. The gist of the conversation is Thorn believes the police and even Superman want her on the streets fighting criminals because conspiracy. Along the way, Thorn beat the snot out of a group of secret syndicate Invisible Mafia henchmen. She probably shouldn't have revealed that to Leon's lieutenant. The character work in this book is terrible, and the reveal of a new, old character rather lame. I can't imagine anyone caring about this conspiracy with the world about to be destroyed. I rate the characterization 1 out of 5. Somehow Bendis manages to outdo his character work and write a plot that's even more thin and boring. The Secret Syndicate, Invisible Mafia, monitor Superman from their drum of invisibility. They decide, with Supes busy tracking down Leviathan, now is the time to strike. What this all means is very ambiguous, and the team of criminals create new cover terms to hide from Superman's superhearing. After her booty call with Clark, Lois calls to speak with Perry White, which is just a pointless transition to Robinson Goode, who has a mystery caller showing her evidence of Leviathan. Perry tells her to meet her new contact and get the local angle on the story. Oddly enough, Bendis needs readers to know Goode is a crappy person. A woman, who Goode calls Trish, wishes they were better friends. She thanks her and asks her name. The woman introduces herself as Big Barda. Not sure why she's working at the Daily Planet, but okay. And she again calls her Trish, despite just being informed of her real name. Who wouldn't want to be friends with Robin? I'm not going to subjugate you to the god-awful conversation between Robin and Rose and Thorn again, but she learns a conspiracy. She reports the information to her syndicate mafia boss Leon. She assures her queen nobody is mentioning her name yet, and they conspire to use her position at the Daily Planet to gather more information. They then reminisce about Thorn beating the hell out of Pretzel and a few other henchmen. This would be cool if we didn't just meet the Rose and Thorn character. There's absolutely no build to this big reveal, so it means nothing. And then Leviathan shows up at the end to confront a character. This story is dull, incoherent, and meaningless because there isn't proper build to any of it. Superman and Lois are in the book superficially. I rate the plot in Action Comics 1012 0.5 out of 5. This issue is absolute nonsense. Bendis hasn't mentioned any of these characters or events in over half a year, but jumps right back in like he never left this story arc. I literally nodded off multiple times trying to read this drivel. Szymon Kudranski's art is lackluster throughout and still manages to easily eclipse Bendis' writing. I rate Action Comics 1012 1 out of 5 overall. This is easily the worst issue of a monotonous series. The events don't line up with the happenings in Event Leviathan. Brian Michael Bendis is in dire need of a quality editor to shoot honestly with him. Between Superman 12 and Action Comics 1012, this is as low as his writing has been at DC Comics. DC recently announced he's adding the Legion of Superheroes franchise to his already full plate. Bendis can barely handle one book, yet is currently writing 6 to 10 issues monthly now. This will only get worse until DC management lightens his load and gives him the editorial support he desperately needs. DC Comics' iconic Superman is in critical need of saving from Brian Michael Bendis and his rapidly deteriorating writing skills. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.